Thank you everyone for joining us for the debrief for day 2, debrief and logistics. A couple of quick announcements before we get started. We want to make sure we have enough time for each team to present their work. Since we have 5 teams, Martin, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, A Different World, Grownish, and Proud Family, we will allow for 2 minutes each to go over the questions, but a few quick announcements before that. Just a reminder to get Fragile Families data access. You need to sign up today. It's posted in Slack in order to participate in our activities on Friday. Please make sure you do that. Also, please turn off your camera so you don't accidentally spotlight. Thank you. Also, I want to briefly thank our TAs. So we had a number of people visiting with us today from Mathematica who have done a Herculean lift for us. So Matan, Nadia, Miriam, Jonathan, Phil, Aaron, Peter, Amy, Emma, Haiwete, and Hanzi. Thank you all so much. I know we'll see some of you again tomorrow. Thank you to our special guests, Dr. Mohammed for her inspiration this morning, Will Kent from Wiki Education, and Savannah Cragen, a Wikimedian in residence. And then finally, as always, thank you to our event staff, Amanda, Amber, and Ava. All right, so the questions on the table, what was your research question? What was your research frame, including your unit of analysis? What legal, I'll say that again, legal screen scraping technique did you use or attempt to use to get your digital trace data? What were the strengths and weaknesses of your data that you collected? And what's the hybrid design you came up with to address the weaknesses of your data? And I'd also just throw out there, what'd you learn? So do we have a team that would like to go first? Go ahead and raise your hand, one of our teams. And we'll get started with presenting what you did. Keep in mind, we weren't expecting you to complete this entire thing. You may have gotten 2 of those done, maybe 3, maybe 1. We want to hear what you learned. So Ebony, please go ahead and turn on your camera and tell us which team you are from, and then walk us through your questions.
All right. Hi, everyone. Ebony Russ here. I'm from the Proud family. I'm happy to report we have good energy in our family. We had fun today. Yes, Regis, please step in when I get to the R functions and all of that, because you've been working diligently on that portion. So our research question is just this. What are the similarities and differences in support surrounding the Black Lives Matter movement and Stop AAPI Hate movement from elected leaders via Twitter? So our sampling frame is Twitter. Our targeted population will be looking at tweets from elected US officials, and we've decided on our time frame as well. So it'll be from 2020 until current. Let's see, the key hashtags that we will look to extrapolate from the Twitter data, hashtag Black Lives Matter, all spelled out, hashtag BLM, hashtag Stop Asian Hate, hashtag Stop AAPI Hate. So those are the hashtags that we're interested in. In terms of the code, and so write a code and collect data from each unit of analysis in your sample. Regis, would you like to talk about that a bit?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we successfully scraped a website that had all the elected officials in Congress plus some of the US territories and their Twitter handles. We were able to do that, created an app on Twitter and was able to connect the API. And we just copied Dr. Bale's code to do a loop to try to pull up at least the last 100 tweets from them. And then after that, we'll probably figure out a way to do that, pull the relevant hashtags. But so far, that's as far as we got. The code in R seems to be stopped, or I'm not sure. I was talking with the TAs to try to figure that piece out, but that's as far as we got so far.
Thank you, Proud Family. Which team would like to go next?
Martin will go.
Okay, go ahead and turn your camera on.
Alrighty, give me just a second here. Come on, you can do it. There we go. Hi everyone, I'm Meredith. I'm on Team Martin, and our research question asked about how Black cryptocurrency investors are engaging in discourse around Dogecoin. We had a couple of crypto folks on our team, so they gave us some background information. Our site was Reddit, and for our sampling frame, we initially started thinking about Twitter for our site, and then we found that the discourse wasn't really unfolding there. And so we set up our sampling frame for Reddit, for subreddits, and the subreddit cryptocurrency, and using search terms that contained AAVE around a certain time point. And so that point in time was when Dogecoin spiked. We desired, I should say, to look at a valley and a spike. We ran into trouble when we started to try to scrape the code. We looked around for APIs that were already developed as suggested in the videos, and we found a few, but then as we started to look into them, we found out that they were defunct or they were no longer accessible to us. So we made a quick switch back to Twitter. We searched for some data there, but this is something that we're going to continue to push forward on because we have some great ideas about coming up with 2 papers, one on methodology and one on the actual data itself once it's in hand.
Thank you, Team Martin. What team would like to go next? I will go ahead and volunteer someone to go next. So let's go with Grownish. So that would be, there we go. Thank you, Marissa. I will spotlight you.
2 seconds from raising my hand. If anyone wants to join me, I know Elaine is back and Ibukun is back, so I'm not over here by myself. So we spent some time going over all of our research interests, and we saw some overlap with immigration, specifically immigration and the concept of immigration, education, and STEM. So we developed a few research questions. We're interested in looking at what immigrant populations are underrepresented in STEM and what immigrant populations are overrepresented in STEM, with the ideas of potential future work looking at implications of immigrants entering the STEM field. So immigrants that choose or choose not to enter the STEM based off of the representation or lack thereof. And then second, implications on immigration attitudes and our policies. So what policies or immigration policies people support or do not support in attitudes towards immigrants. So to look at this, we have our sampling frame is like twofold. So we're looking at census data to see the actual percentage of immigrants that are listed or that are actually working in STEM or as students in STEM for the representation, well, for the actual element. And then we also are looking at news articles specifically surrounding immigration policy. And for that, I can pass it on to Elaine or Ibukun, whoever wants to talk about the reasoning for the years that we chose for the news articles.
Yeah, I can go ahead. So pretty much in the year 2008 and 2016, policies were passed in place that really encouraged STEM students to be able to have 3 years for their OPT in comparison with non-STEM who only have a year for their OPT. So we felt that that could encourage more STEM participation among immigrants. The second reason why we chose this here was like we're looking into the census. They happen every 5 years. Every 5 years, the last one was last year, that was 2020. So we felt that we should take the census for 2020, 2015, 2010, and 2005. So we're interested in looking into what was the immigrant population looks like before the first policy was passed in 2008. So that informed the judgment of 2005 decision. And the next 2010, just after, how does the immigrant population demographics look like? And then 2015 and 2020, how does the policy that was passed in 2016, how does that affect the distribution of immigrants in STEM? So that was the reason why we picked those 4 different points years to look at demographics before the first policy, demographic before the second policy, and look at how policies affect immigration and STEM participation in the United States. Yeah.
Thank you, Team Gronish. To keep us moving, let's go with Team Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Hello. I would be very happy to have anyone else from the team also jump in on this one. So let me pull up our Google document. So we spent also some time going over our research interests, which were really diverse, and surprisingly came up with a question that kind of intersects most of our research interests. So we wanted to look at what events are associated with language that's used around food and diet during the 2020-2021 years on Twitter. And specifically, we're interested in looking at how Black Twitter users use language around food. And then we wanted to compare the language of food and diet around moments that capture moments of like cultural pains, like negative events, versus cultural pride, which would be a positive event. So comparing things like how people speak about food around the time that George Floyd was murdered and how people speak about food around the time that High on the Hog came out. Let's see, our sample frame. Then, so we were looking at Twitter data, trying to look at users who are Black. We realized that it's kind of hard to get race from Twitter data. And was there anything else that I'm missing there?
Should we talk about our challenges?
Yeah, we had a lot of challenges. So we felt pretty good about our question. And then when we tried to get the Twitter data, we spent a long time figuring out how to get the Twitter data because we thought we needed a developer license. And so tried to circumvent that by looking for similar data elsewhere, and then realized that we could actually just pull tweets with the R-tweet package. So we finally figured that out, and we started looking at just the hashtag High on the Hog, just to look at what the data would look like and try to play around with it a little bit, and really practice coding to pull the observations that we'd be interested in looking at.
Thank you. Let's jump to a different world.
Erica?
Okay, sure. So I can go. Hi everyone. For our team, our research question was focused around how the use of the words race, Black Lives Matter, and other similar hashtags or wordings changed between 2019 and 2021 among corporate accounts. And so we decided to center, initially we thought we would center around the murder of George Floyd, but then we thought maybe we would extend it a year in each direction in the before and after. And really we're trying to understand the changes that came about from corporate accounts and like whether or not they became more, whether or not they started using more inclusive language and equality language after that. And so our sampling frame that we decided on was Twitter. And then does someone want to take the other half?
I can jump in a little bit. So yeah, that's exactly it. We wanted to look at these corporate accounts. And so we're going to look at their communication through Twitter, how their sort of tweet language and hashtag use changed over time. We started by looking at Fortune 500 companies. And so we just got a list of Fortune 500 sort of company names. And then we were working on identifying what their sort of Twitter handles would be, so we could pull the appropriate tweets and then have a sense of sort of this. We really wanted to look at large scale sort of people who have big sort of nationwide audiences. And so we thought Fortune 500 large companies would be a good set. And we also wanted to have the additional conditions of verified accounts to make sure that these are sort of legitimate business accounts, and ideally around 10,000 plus followers to sort of match the scale of the enterprise, and really get people who are companies that are communicating with consumers and not like a really big, B2B business that might not be doing a lot of communication there. And in terms of, so we did a somewhat manual approach initially, because initially it's like 500 is maybe not the biggest number, and we were expecting the sort of more computationally intense stuff to come in with analyzing and pulling the tweets through the API. Although we got some feedback that there actually could have been ways to even use web scraping to basically find Twitter tags on company websites and then use that to, even though you don't necessarily know what each company's page looks like, still pull that information in a systematic way. That's something that we might have oriented towards had we known that or had a little bit more time to think through it on that side of things. Yeah.
And just very quickly, my group doesn't know this yet, but I just got approved for the Twitter developer account. So that's good news. We, several of us had applied and we were waiting to hear. I heard back in an email and they wanted more details. So what we just shared with you is what I shared in the email. And we now have approval. So we look forward to digging into the actual data.
Thank you. I'd like to just note that when I did this way back in 2019, I think I got my approval about 2 months later. So that was pretty fast. So congratulations. All right. So I want to encourage you all to continue working on this. I'm going to drop the questions as well as a note in the chat box for you. It could be interesting if you all wrote this up and shared these on Twitter. A great way for us to sort of keep track of what everyone is learning, the projects that are unfolding, and you never know, someone in another group might jump on or be able to help you with the project. Be exciting to see how many papers and collaborations come out of this, but let's make sure we capture all of this. I'm going to be encouraging you to capture all of these things at the end of the day daily. I apologize, we are 4 minutes over, but those be the breaks sometimes. Have a wonderful day. I look forward to seeing you all bright and early tomorrow at 10 a.m. EDT. If you'd like to come to office hours, those start at 9. We'll be here for questions, but that does it for our day. Thank you so much. See you soon. Thank you all for watching. For more information on SICSS-Howard Mathematica, visit our website, follow us on social media, and join our email list.